Welcome back. You're watching Buy Now, Sell Now on ET Now, and we have a very special management joining us on the show, and that is the management of Maruti Suzuki. We have Mr. Shashank Srivastava, who is the Senior Executive Director, Marketing and Sales at Maruti Suzuki, joining us on the show. Good morning, Mr. Srivastava. Thank you so much for joining us on ET Now. If you look at the month-on-month numbers for Maruti Suzuki, we are actually seeing the production numbers seeing an improvement. How is the situation when we talk about the semiconductor shortage front? Do you see some resolution on that particular front? And also, can January production numbers be back to normal levels?
Yeah, so as you know, in the month gone by, which was December, we could produce almost 90% of our production plan. And this has been actually an improvement over the previous months. So if you look at October or September, we did only about 40% of the production. In October, it was about 60%. In November, it was about 83 or 84%. And now close to 90% in December. So there seems to have been a progressive improvement on the supply side as well because of the improved situation on the semiconductor. So, but going forwards, as you can see, is still not normal. And it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly what time it will become absolutely normal. I don't think January will be normal, but there is, as I just gave you the statistics, seems to be improvement month on month. So hopefully it will continue to improve and reach to that 100% level after some time. When is that exact time when we reach the 100% normal? Is it still dynamic because the global supply chain is involved, and it's a very complex issue involving not just Maruti Suzuki and India, but all OEMs across the globe.
Right, sir. This is Vinny Motiwala joining in as well, Mr. Srivastava. What I do want to understand also is the demand trend. How is that holding up currently? Especially we are seeing some pressure coming in the mini vehicle segment. So what are you seeing in terms of that? Also, especially sales have continued to rise in the CNG. So what is that what you've highlighted before? So, how is the overall demand shaping up now?
Yeah, so on the demand side, the parameter seems to be pretty strong still. We see a good improvement in booking numbers as well as the overall inquiry level, even in the last month of December. So on the demand side, there seems to be a good strength at the moment, and it is across the segments. So in fact, you will be surprised that for the whole calendar year, the top 4 vehicles are actually hatch vehicles. So it's the top 4, as you know, are WagonR, Alto, the Baleno, and the Swift. So they are all hatches. So the demand seems to be strong, but in the last few months, we have seen a supply disruption because of, or at least a constrained supply because of the semiconductor issue, and that has led to the building up of waiting periods. And the pending payments had gone up at one point of time. The pending payments had gone up to, in Maruti Suzuki's case, to almost 2.8 lakhs. Right now, also there are about 2.3 lakh pending bookings. So I think in that sense, the demand side is strong. But and also the same is reflected in CNG. CNG, as you know, we are looking at annual volumes of around 2.5 lakh as compared to 1.62 lakh last year. And it was just 1.05 lakh the previous year. And the demand for CNG seems to continue. In fact, the waiting periods for CNG models is much longer than what we see for the gasoline models.
Right, Mr. Srivastava. Let's talk actually about the car launches. Your peers actually, Mahindra as well as Tata Motors and other foreign players have also started announcing new launches. When is Maruti Suzuki's next car launch, and how will 2022 be in terms of launches for your company, as well as which segments are you all actually focusing on with regards to new launches?
Yeah, so we recently launched the Celerio, as you know, in the hatchback segment, and we will also have the CNG version of it very shortly in a few days' time. Yes, we have very strong, without getting into the specifics of the product launches, but as I have mentioned earlier, Maruti Suzuki believes in a strong product portfolio, and every year we will try to launch new models, and this year is going to be no different. We will launch many new models in this year.
Right, Mr. Srivastava, but I'm going to ask you a bit more. Any number in terms of that you can share in terms of the launches?
Yeah, so actually I have a constraint in talking about specifics for the future product plan. But what I can say is that we are very bullish about the Indian market in the long term. And you mentioned rightly that one of the areas where we are a little weaker as far as product portfolio is concerned is the mid SUV segment. So definitely we would be looking forward to strengthening the portfolio there as well.
All right, that's about your car launches and what you're planning. Let's talk about the EV segment then, Mr. Srivastava. Toyota has actually been making headlines on the EV investment plans. Are you and you have a partnership with them? So any plans on India EV launches? Also, how can we actually see Maruti Suzuki riding the EV transition?
Yeah, so without really referring to the Toyota alliance, because I'm not fully aware of the details of that alliance, except what is already known in the public. I must tell you one thing about the EVs, which is a question which is has been put up almost by all media, which is that at the moment, and we stand of course by our most recent announcement that we will be bringing an EV before 2025. And the reason that we have mentioned why we are not immediately getting into the EV thing is because the ecosystem which is required for a sustainable large scale, large volume build up in the industry is still not there.
And so, like you mentioned, that EV will actually require investments. So what are your plans for that? Are you looking at any PE investments, or, rather you will want Toyota to make an investment in collaboration?
And I will not be able to comment on the Toyota alliance, details of which are, is not really known to me. So as regards the product, the investments in product, Maruti Suzuki has been very strong, and along with our parent organization, Suzuki Motor Corporation, we have always had a strong investment in the product portfolio, and that I think will continue.
Mr. Srivastava, let's just focus on to something that actually not only affects the consumers as well as the corporates as well, and that is inflation. What is the situation when it comes to commodity inflation? Are there any relief on that particular front, or do you still see some pressure on margins due to higher commodity inflation?
So it hasn't really eased out as much as we would have thought earlier. The precious metals which go into the making of the catalyzers, especially for the BS6 cars, where a lot of this material is used, there has been some softening. However, it hasn't softened too much. On the other hand, steel, for example, has actually hardened rather than softened, as also aluminium, which is now quite high, about $2,800-$2,900 to the ton. So that's a pretty strong commodity prices. And copper also still remains quite high, about $9,200 a ton. So in that sense, there has been no real relief on the commodity side, and that is why we have announced that we will be increasing prices, and most of the OEMs have announced that they will be increasing prices in the month of January, which is this month, and we shall also be shortly announcing that price rise in line with that.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Srivastava, for joining in with us, giving us your insights on the December sales numbers, EVs, and everything about Maruti. It was a pleasure having you on the show, sir.